any crimes. So if you didn't know, basically for like the last like month to month and a half, he's been on trial for what they're calling a hush money scandal. And I've been kind of going over what's going on, but if you don't know what it is, this is basically what it is. Trump was paying money to people, say like around the 2016 election, right? What are we at? 10 minutes. Okay, I'm only going to explain this for like 3 minutes. Okay. So around the 2016 election, there was a lot of things coming out about Trump. Remember the video where he's like grabbing by the you know what with women and a whole bunch of other things. So he was basically paying people to not release more bad stories about him. Like he was basically having news people that own major news companies not tell story. He was paying them to not tell negative stories about him. And this is what this case is basically centered around, is proving that Trump was paying money to people to not release bad stories about him, and he was saying the money was business expenses. Basically, he was writing off the money that he was paying as business expenses, and the biggest payment, or the biggest business expense that everyone is about, that this trial is basically mainly centered on, is porn star Stormy Daniels. And if you don't know who Stormy Daniels is, here is a picture of her. She's I should say corn star. I don't know. She's like a whatever star. She's an adult film actress. And she's like the main person this case was centered around. She said back in 2000, her and Trump had sex, and Trump paid $130,000 to her to basically keep that story under wraps. And he said that the $130,000 was a business expense when he did it. So that's what they're talking about. The prosecution, the people who are trying to get Trump convicted, were saying he paid a whole bunch of money to people to not say bad things about him. So he wouldn't look bad for the upcoming election. And the defense is saying that never happened. His defense said Trump never slept with this woman, Stormy Daniels, and we never paid this money or said that it was for a business expense. They're completely lying on us. And the star witness for the prosecution was Stormy Daniels, one of them, because she had her testimony, which was scandalous, as I'm sure you know. She had her testimony basically saying, yeah, we did sleep together, and I did get this money to shut up. And then there was a couple other people, Michael Cohen, M-I-C-H Cohen. He was basically like one of Trump's main guys. He used to be. He stopped working with Trump, and he was working for the people trying to get rid of Trump, to basically say that, yeah, Trump paid this money. He told me to pay it to her. I paid the money to the girl, to Stormy Daniels. We were talking about it. So, yeah, he definitely paid money for her to not talk about them having sex, and he definitely wrote it off as a business expense. So that's what he's basically saying. Trump's side is saying that this guy's a liar, he's a hater, his whole thing is to try to make Trump look bad, blah, blah, blah. That's what they were talking about. So that's the story, right? We're at 13. So now let's take a minute for me to talk about what I was saying, what I thought was going to happen with this. And let's go back to this. So let's take a second to go back to what I thought with this. I was 100% wrong, because I was screaming. This was like months ago when this started. Like, there's no way Trump is going to get convicted. There's no way Trump is going to go to jail, because I thought Trump was Teflon Don. Every time something happens to him or somebody says he does something wrong, he seems to get away with it. It never happens. So first, I do want to just say I was 1,000% wrong with that. It does look like Trump is like, to some extent being held accountable for this shit that he's doing. Because after this case, basically saying, did Trump pay money to keep people quiet? And he paid other people too. It was another porn star. It was like some dude from the National Enquirer, that he was Enquirer guy from Trump trial. And I can go find his name really quickly. What's his name? David Pecker. There was other people that were like, the prosecution in the case went into, like, David Pecker. This guy used to like be like a big editor for the National Enquirer, which is like a journalism place, and just a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of people in this, but so yeah, the case happened, and he was found guilty. Let me move my camera. Let's see. He was found guilty on all. So it was 34 charges. He was convicted of all of them. So I want to read through this article a little bit to get an idea for myself, and to just be able to explain kind of what I want now. Is just because I already went over what the case is about. I want to know what this means, what could happen from Trump. And I read an article on a stream not too long ago about what could happen from Trump from doing this, or could he go to jail? Long story short, he could go to jail. It's up to the judge, Juan Merchan, Judge Judge Juan Merchan, who's basically proceeding over this. It's basically up to him if Trump wants to go to jail now. The article I saw said that because Trump is like a first time offender, it's a nonviolent crime. A bunch of other shit where it basically, because he's older, where he probably won't go to jail, or the chances of him going to jail are slim, but they are there. I think it would be 4 years most or something like that he could go for the cases. So that's one thing. Would Trump go to jail? What could happen from him? Like, he could probably pay a fine. So I don't think it's as big as like anybody. It's going to be a big deal because this never happened before. This is unprecedented. No former president has been gone for a felony. But he's probably not going to go to jail, right? And there was an article I read about this. I can post it, but like, just so you don't believe me, I read this in an article that said this. Like, that's facts. I'm willing to stand on business about saying like he can go to jail, but he probably won't go to jail because of the cases, how he's never been in something like this before, how he's older. Like, it just probably wouldn't happen. But he could put him in jail. Judge Juan Merchan, if he wanted to, he could, but he probably won't. He can still run for president because I guess if you're a felon, you can still be a president. Some loophole shit where it's like you can still do that. So, and I'm looking at another thing that I want to kind of talk about is like, how will this affect his presidency? And I think looking at it is, how are people going to look at Trump, right? Like, because he's going to have to pay a fine. He's rich as fuck. He can pay the fines. He's not going to go to jail, right? So, okay. He could still be president. Like, it's not going to stop him from being president. But what is this going to mean for voters, right? The big question for me is like, because the people who love Trump, the Trump supporters, no matter what Trump does, this is going to be a reason to like Trump more. Oh, the Democrats, America, everyone's against Trump. Like, I read another article that said, like, no matter how it was going to turn out, this whole case, whether Trump was found guilty or he wasn't found guilty, Trump and his people are going to use it to their advantage as far as like talking points. So now that it's came out that he is found guilty, Trump is probably going to use it as like a thing where it's like, they have me fucked up. This is a witch hunt. Biden can't beat me fair and square, so they have to do this, and now they're trying to do that. So that's going to be one thing. But what about, like, the people who are on the fence? The people who are like, I do not like Joe Biden, I do not like Trump, but I'm going to lead toward Trump. Because there's those people, too, that are like, I don't like Trump or Biden, because a hell of people hate Biden. Don't even need to look up stats or anything to say that. Like, that's just look outside or talk to somebody. You know that. Are they going to be like, okay, now we really can't vote for Trump? Like, are they going to be leaned back over the way? Basically, what I want to know now is the people who are on the fence about Trump, do they now see that Trump got convicted of all these crimes? They see now because, and if you can hear my dog in the background, sorry. But do they now say, okay, he was convicted of all these crimes, we can't vote for him? Or do they say, because that's one way to say, like, he's immature, he looks bad, this looks bad for America, he's a convicted felon, and he's about to be president. Yeah, he technically can do it, but we shouldn't let him. But the other side of that is, like, he was falsifying business records. He didn't hurt anyone. It's not a violent crime. He didn't take money from anyone. He didn't want people to know that he was having sex with a porn star. There's worse things, and most people would do it. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, what is the mindset of people right now because of the Trump thing. And, like, I guess we can look at Twitter. Like, we can skim through this article to find it. I can look at some things. Like, let's see. This is what distracting you. This is what they are distracting you. I'm looking through my Twitter group chat to see if there's anything. Bear with me. Okay, I'm not going to say this on live because yeah, okay. Sorry about that, but basically, like, I want to know, like, the people who are on the fence about who they're going to vote for, does this make them not want to vote for Trump less, or do they not care, or does it make them want to vote for Trump less, and are they going to be of the mindset that, like, people are against them? So that interests me, but, let's go to this article and see if it says anything interesting. Let's see, this is a Associated Press article, Michael R. Sizak, Jennifer Peltz, Eric Tucker, and Michelle L. Price. So let's see. Let me move this up here. And then let me make this a little closer. All right, wait, this is good. All right. Donald Trump became the first former president to be convicted of felony crimes Thursday as a New York jury found him guilty of falsifying business records in a scheme to illegally influence the 2016 election through hush money payments to an important actor who said the two had sex. Stormy Daniels, he's falsifying business records. He's saying he paid them for a business expense, blah, blah, blah. Jurors convicted Trump on all 34 counts after deliberating for 9.5 hours. Golly. As the verdict was read, he sat stone-faced in court looking down. The verdict is a stunning legal reckoning for Trump, who exposes him to potential prison time in the city, where his manipulations of the tabloid press helped catapult him from a real estate tycoon to reality television star and ultimately president. As he seeks to return to the White House in this year's election, the judgment presents voters with another test of their willingness to accept Trump's boundary-breaking behavior. Yeah, as he seeks to return to the White House in this year's election, the judgment presents voters with another test to their willingness to accept Trump's boundary-breaking behavior, right? That's what that sentence is basically saying. Like, this is gonna, like, as Trump is trying to go to the White House, this is gonna basically test, like, how much are you gonna let Trump bullshit before you say, okay, we can't just let this guy be president? Because if you're with Trump, part of it is the bullshit while you like him, but how much of bullshit are you gonna go before you're just like, okay, this is just immature or not okay is the word whatever word you want to use with an immature, fucked up, not right. And if you get arrested for felonies, okay. Trump is expected to quickly appeal the verdict and will face an awkward dynamic as he seeks to return to the campaign trail as a convicted felon. There are no campaign rallies on the calendar for now, though he's expected to hold fundraisers next week. It will likely take several months for Judge Juan Merchan, who oversaw the case, to decide whether to sentence Trump to prison. It will likely take several months for Judge Juan Merchan, who oversaw the case, to decide whether Trump... I'm going to be streaming all for like months, so I'm going to be keeping up with this somewhat. Maybe not on like the stream, but in some type of way. I'm going to say now, I know I was wrong about saying I don't think Trump will be held accountable for anything. I could be wrong about this again. He is not going to jail for this. He's just not going to jail. But he is a convicted felon, and I didn't think that would happen, so anything can happen. Okay. The falsifying business records charges carry up to 4 years behind bars, though prosecutors have not said whether they intend to seek imprisonment, and it is not clear whether the judge, who earlier in the trial warned for jail time for gag order violations, another story we talked about that, would impose that punishment even if asked. The conviction, even imprisonment, will not bar Trump from continuing his pursuit to the White House. Him being a felon, and I guess even him going to jail, doesn't stop him being president. That's kind of crazy to me, but who knows? Am I live still? And let me see. Do I have any emails? Sorry about that. I'm looking at something. Okay. Yeah, I did. All right, it's nothing. Trump faces 3 other felony indictments, but the New York case may be the only one to reach a conclusion before the November election, adding to the significance of the outcome. Though the legal and historical implications of the verdict are really apparent, the political consequences are less so, given its potential to reinforce rather than reshape already hardened opinions about Trump. And okay. For another candidate in another time, a criminal conviction might doom a presidential run. But Trump's political career has endured through two impeachments, allegations of sexual abuse, investigations into everything from political ties to Russia to plotting to overturn an election, and personal salacious storylines, including the emergence of a recording in which he boasted about grabbing women's genitals. That's how I was talking about grabbing anything. And this is what I'm talking about. This is the conversation. This is the main conversation of this article. And let me see how much is left in this. Sheesh, it's a good amount. He wrote a lot. We're going to skim through this. But this is like the meat of what's going on, is like these 2 paragraphs. Like, okay, he other faces these indictments. The legal and historical complications or implications of the verdict are readily apparent. Like, okay, he's a felon. It's fried as fuck. The historical implications, this has never happened before. We've never had a president that was a felon. This is historical. But the political consequences, we don't know, because, I mean, if this is basically what they're saying is his fans have stuck with him through 2 impeachments, allegations of sexual abuse, political ties to Russia, plotting to overturn an election, January, whatever, I can't think of the date of it. There's so many dates. January, is it 16th? Is it January 6th? Yeah, January 6th. Oh, let me see. We go back. January 6th, personal salacious storylines, and in a recording in which he boasted about grabbing women and women's genitals. He was on recording saying this, and people still fuck with him. So basically, like, what this is at this point is a popularity show, or like a view show. Like, how do people think of him? And is this gonna make people think of him any worse? Is this gonna make you not vote for him? Is the question. And I honestly don't want to talk about it because I don't know. I don't know. I think, like I said, the people who love Trump are gonna always love Trump. Hold on one second. Let me see what this is about. I'm trying to cook. Can you ask Grant? I'm in the middle of streaming. Or, okay. It's not my dog. Like, what the fuck? I could stop. I was gonna take a little break anyways, like a little 5 minute break. Probably play a couple songs on stream, but like, I'm locked in right now. I'm locked in right now. Like, what the heck? I'm locked in right now. Yeah, I'm gonna drink a little bev. But yeah, I don't want to talk about whether or not I think, or how I feel about if this is gonna make people want to vote for Trump or not. But that's the question that needs to come from this. I mean, that's what they're saying in here, even. But even so, the verdict is likely to give President Joe Biden and fellow Democrats. Oh, my bad. You guys can see. Let's see. Okay. Even so, the verdict is likely to give President Joe Biden and fellow Democrats space to sharpen arguments that Trump is unfit for office, even as it provides fodder for the presumptive Republican nominee to advance his unsupported claims that he is victimized by a criminal justice system he insists is politically motivated against him, right? That's what he's saying. Like, this is the only thing they can do to beat me. They're fucked up. They wanna put me under. You know, it was a couple weeks ago, like, Trump was like saying black people can relate to him because they know what it's like to be in a harsh fucking system. And it gets swept under the rug. That's the shit where I be like, Trump is tough on Don, because he says so much wild shit and no one cares. He does so much crazy shit. It's fucking nuts. It's fucking nuts. But that's basically what he's saying, is that they have it out for me. Trump maintained throughout the trial that he had done nothing wrong. The first criminal trial for permanent trials presented a unique test for the court system, not only because Trump's unique for the courts. The trial involved charges that Trump falsified business records to cover up hush money payments to Stormy Daniels, the porn actor who said they had sex with the married Trump in 2006. Yep. We talked about this. The $130,000 payment, we said this, was made by Trump's foreign lawyer and personal fixer, Michael Cohen. We already talked about him. This is Michael Cohen. We already talked about him. But Daniel's silence during the final weeks of the 2016 race is what prosecutors allege was an effort to interfere with the election. When Cohen was reimbursed, these payments were recorded as legal expenses, which prosecutors said was an unlawful attempt to mask the true purpose of the transaction. And that's what I was talking about. Anybody seeing this knows, yeah, like, logically, Trump definitely did this. He definitely paid $130,000 to Michael Cohen to pay to Stormy Daniels so she wouldn't say nothing about them having sex. The thing that was confusing to me, or I was not even confusing, I mean, it was confusing at first, but then I started reading about it more, so it wasn't confusing. But the thing that I was questioning is it going to be proved? Obviously, the prosecution did. But Trump's lawyer contend they were legitimate payments for legal services. Obviously, they weren't. He has denied the sexual encounter, and his lawyers argued during the trial that his celebrity status, particularly during the 2016 campaign, made him a target for extortion. They've said hush money deals, and let me make this a little bit smaller, actually. Shit. Let me see. Let's see. There we go. They've said hush money deals to bury negative stories about Trump were motivated by personal considerations, such as the impact of his family and brand has been. Yep. The trial has featured more than 4 weeks of occasionally riveting testimony that revisited an already well-documented chapter from Trump's past, when his 2016 campaign was threatened by the disclosure of an access recording that captured him talking about grabbing women sexually without their permission, and the prospect of other stories about Trump and sex servicing that would be harmful to his candidacy. Trump didn't testify. Of course he didn't. Cohen, in which he and lawyer discussed 100% Trump. But jurors heard his voice through a secret recording of a conversation with Cohen, in which he and the lawyer discussed a $150,000 hush money deal involving a Playboy model, Karen McDougal, who has said she had an affair with Trump. What do we got to pay for this? 150. Trump was heard saying on the recording made by Cohen. That's not funny at all. That's not funny. He's just fried, bro. Trump is so fried. What do we have to pay for this 150? Basically, this is saying like there's another thing where Trump had a recording of him talking to a Playboy model named Karen McDougal. And early when I was saying there was a lot of other people in this, just Stormy Daniel was the big one, but Karen McDougal was a big one. Apparently she was paid by Trump. Apparently she was paid by Trump as well. For basically the same thing. Just don't come up about the story. Yeah. So I guess they had his ass on recording saying some fried shit about like her, saying that let's not pay her, so that makes it a little bit more tough for him. Who has said she had an affair with Trump. What do we got to pay for this? 150. Trump was heard saying on the recording made by Cohen. Daniels herself testified, offering at times a graphic recounting of the sexual encounter. She says, Daniels herself testified, offering at times a graphic recounting of the sexual encounter. She says they had in a hotel suite during a Lake Tahoe golf tournament. The former publisher of the National Enquirer, David Pecker, we looked at him, testified about how he worked to keep stories harmful to the Trump campaign from becoming public at all, including by having his company buy a McDougal story. And that's what happened. Like this Karen McDougal story, like the National Enquirer and David Pecker's company basically bought it from her and just kept it, like threw it under the rug so it never came out. This is another guy. The outcome provided a degree of vindication for Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who has characterized the case as being about the election interference rather than hush money, and defended it against criticism from legal expert who called it the weakest of the 4 prosecutions against Trump. All right, yeah, this is vindication for the dude that did this, Alvin Bragg. Let's look him up too, because he was basically the guy leading the team on the prosecution that just had a great day, that just got Trump prosecuted for 34 counts of falsifying business records. He was basically the leader of this, and this is basically saying like this kind of is like a win for them. This is a vindication for him, because people were saying that this is a weak case and that he couldn't win. These are legal experts, and he won. So of course it's a vindication for him. It's a win. It took on added importance, not only because it preceded the trial first, but because it could be the only one of the cases to reach a jury before the November election. Probably will. The rest of these won't happen for a while. The other 3 cases, local and federal charges in Atlanta and Washington that he conspired to undo the 2020 election, as well as federal indictment in Florida charging him with illegally hoarding top secret records, are bogged down by delays or appeals. So he has, 3 other cases. I think 2 of them about the 2020 election, and then another one in Florida about him stealing records, and that was like a big thing. Like they were talking about Trump, who had records too, and I mean they were talking about Biden that had records too, and Trump and how they were different. That was a whole thing. But yeah, I mean basically, we said from this article we got from this article it's gonna take months before the judge is gonna make a decision on to put Trump in jail. What else do we got from this article? It's good for the prosecution. It makes him feel good. They described what, this case is doing. This is just a fried situation. I think I covered, as much as I want to cover on this, but it's just wild as shit. Wild as shit. And I guess the final thing that I want to say about this is Trump is not as tough on Don as I think he is. This makes Trump look really bad. I'm curious as to if this is like anyone watching this, let me know. Contact me. I'm curious as if, do you think Trump now being a convicted felon and for what he's convicted for, if this makes people not want to vote for him, does it make people want to vote for him, or does it make people not care? Does it make people have less trust in the American justice system because they're saying all of these things? Obviously this is the right thing to do. I think he did it. And I think it's hard to say he didn't do it, but what does this do for voting? If you're saying this makes because he was convicted, it's like an unlawful justice system, you're probably just fried. You're Trump himself or just a Trump fan. But the real question is how much do people care? And are people gonna not vote for Trump because of this? That's what I am really asking myself. And then what's gonna happen to Trump? Like, what's gonna be what his case is? Is he gonna be put in jail? Because I don't think he I don't think he will. That's all I got for this. I guess I'll move on to the next story. I'll move on. Let's see. I don't know.